Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss an interesting exchange at a Senate hearing where one senator asked one of Trump's minions a hypothetical question. So he listed a series of things which Trump has done, which favours Putin, and then asked what more could a Russian asset do, like in the position of the president, beyond what Trump had already done. And the respondent had to waffle about something else, suggesting that they couldn't actually think of a single thing. But first, for daily political commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So there are quite a few politicians around Europe who are voicing the thoughts that Trump is a Russian asset. I mean, there's no actual doubt about that. The doubt really is about the motivation. Is he literally doing what Putin tells him to do? Or is Trump simply being persuaded that it's in his interests? Lots of speculation about this, no proven answers, but whether Trump is a direct or an indirect Russian asset, he is clearly proving useful to the Kremlin. I mean, it's clear cut. It is the Russian government who are praising Trump for his actions, not Canadian government, Mexican government, major governments of Europe. It's Russia daily singing Trump's praises. So the idea that Trump is not a Russian asset is completely ridiculous. Russia certainly think he's a Russian asset. But not many politicians right at the top of government could say so while there is hope for diplomacy to rescue something from the situation. I think the French Prime Minister has probably been the most explicit. Several others are describing him as not an ally, but not going as far as implying he's an actual traitor and an enemy. But of course, if there's one country where very senior politicians can vocalise these thoughts, it is America. Democrats are able to ask these questions like this directly of key figures in Trump's administration. And I saw a clip of one such exchange yesterday. I am struggling to find a lot of reporting on it. It began with a Senator, Jeff Merkley of Oregon, first asking if the president was a Russian asset. Then when they said, no, absolutely not. Then listed 5 broad areas in which Trump has favoured Putin over Ukraine. The use of Russian propaganda from the Oval Office. Now, if it were me, I don't think I would have referred to it as propaganda. I think I would have referred to it as repeating lines which the Kremlin has been pushing, which are false, such as, and he did give one example, saying that Ukraine started the war. It's too easy to deny that something is propaganda. It's much harder to deny that Trump is echoing Putin's arguments, because he is. But also giving everything away before negotiations had even begun, such as taking NATO membership for Ukraine off the table, cutting off arms shipments to Ukraine, undermining the partnership with Europe, and attempting to discredit Zelensky on the world stage. So he asked again, is there anything, so this is a purely hypothetical question, is there anything a Russian asset in the White House could do which was more favourable to Russia than what Trump had already done? And Trump's munchkin, Christopher Landau, responded with a load of waffle, including Trump's line that the war wouldn't have started had he been president, which is a complete nonsense, because the war was going on while Trump was president during his first term. Let us remember, the invasion didn't begin in 2022, it began in 2014. 2022 was just when it escalated to the point where we couldn't ignore it. We shouldn't have ignored it back in 2014. But Trump was president for 4 whole years of the war and did nothing. So that's a nonsense.
Senator, the president has made it absolutely clear that his top priority is to try to bring peace and end an absolutely savage war. I know you're familiar with the savagery. This is turning into World War I style trench warfare now in eastern Ukraine. The president is an exceptionally gifted deal maker. He is probably the only individual in the entire universe that could actually stop this. The president understands, as part of his deal
Well, let's turn to another of the folks here.
Thank
you very much, since you're now off the topic I was raising. Mr. Whitaker, these 5 things that the president has done that are so favorable to Putin and so damaging to Ukraine and to our partnership with Europe, do you approve of them?
Well, Senator, thanks for that question. I'm just going to have to politely disagree with you on those 5 things and the way you've framed them. You know, the war in Ukraine would have never happened if President Trump was president in 2022. The war in Ukraine happened because of Joe Biden's weakness after his
I don't think
withdrawal
that
from
was the question I
Afghanistan.
asked, but maybe you could some other time go on television and express those points of view. But do you mind just answering the question I asked? Do you agree with the 5 things that President Trump has done, starting with him expressing Russian propaganda from the Oval Office?
Well, you know, again, as I mentioned to your colleague, I'm not here to assign labels. We're in the middle of a very important peace negotiation.
Okay, thank you. I do hope that we have an administration that works to get the very best deal for Ukraine, but what a Russian asset would do would be to work to get the very best deal for Russia, and that appears to be exactly what Donald Trump is trying to accomplish.
And just to emphasize how much of a nonsense this Landau was talking, he didn't just repeat the Trump line that Trump's the only person who can stop this war. He specifically said he was the only person in the universe who could stop it. What an odd phrase. For someone who's supposedly trying to answer seriously questions of the people's representatives in the Senate. Does Trump ever hire anyone with an emotional maturity above the age of 9 years old? But in amongst the waffle, there was no answer. Landau couldn't actually think of something that this hypothetical Russian asset in the Oval Office could do, which Trump had not, which was the point of the question. And the fact that he was not able to answer the question directly with a clear hypothetical response to a hypothetical question, but instead went massively on the defensive, suggests that Landau knows they're all betraying their country by working with the one who have an explicit foreign policy of weakening America. And if you look at individual situations like this, you can see, well, Trump's own people have no defence against him being a Russian asset. But then you can look at other individual events as well. Take last night. Russia hit a hotel, a civilian target. There were American citizens staying in that hotel. They could have been killed. They weren't, thankfully, but they could have been. Trump's order that intelligence cannot be shared with Ukraine and that arms supply stopped is directly enabling these attacks and actually helping them become deadly attacks. Trump has acted to make sure that Russia has an easy time bombing civilian targets, which can contain American citizens, and made it harder for Ukraine to counter those attacks. He has made the lives of American citizens abroad less safe. Consider that Ukraine is not itself targeting Russian civilians for bombardment, so they're not risking the death of American citizens in Russian hotels. Trump is on the side of the country trying to kill Americans. And America is fine with this, are they? And right now, there's lots of talk about whether Trump is a Russian asset, by which, as I said earlier, I think what they mean is, what sort of Russian asset is he? Because he's definitely on Russia's side. We're just hazy on the details of why and therefore how far he will go. But because this is still the question being asked, there's a bigger question that isn't really being discussed, which I shall be talking about in the third video this evening, because I had a very disturbing thought about the trajectory of these moves. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.